Today's digital platforms and shifting social norms are reshaping how we think about intimacy. Data from the Bumble Global Trends 2025, Hinge DATE Report 2026, and the Ipsos Modern Masculinity Study, covering insights from more than 80 million people worldwide, shows just how quickly expectations around partnership are evolving. Based on surveys of tens of thousands of users, these reports suggest that rigid relationship scripts are giving way to more flexible, intentional models, especially among people in midlife and beyond. One of the most notable shifts is the rise of living apart together, LAT. Far from being a quirky lifestyle trend, it's an intentional choice. Couples share travel, social lives, long-term plans, even parenting, while maintaining separate homes. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 2021, about 3.89 million Americans live apart from their spouses, representing nearly 3% of all marriages. That figure has grown by 40% over the past 2 decades, particularly among women over 50. Research from the UK shows that LAT is especially common among couples over 60, where it's significantly more prevalent than traditional cohabitation and associated with better mental health outcomes. Once seen as something for older couples, LAT is now gaining traction among younger adults as well. Roughly 10% of U.S. adults choose this model voluntarily, valuing autonomy without sacrificing closeness. More broadly, relationships in 2026 are less about merging lives completely, and more about striking a balance, where personal space is seen as a foundation for harmony rather than a threat to intimacy. At the same time, core partner preferences remain surprisingly stable, though not without nuance. Men still tend to prioritize youth and physical attractiveness, with body type ranking high among visual criteria. Women, meanwhile, often cite status, financial stability, and height, with 5 feet 11 inches or taller frequently mentioned, as markers of attractiveness. However, the Ipsos Modern Masculinity Study reveals a perceptual gap. 50% of young men believe women primarily care about looks and money, while women their age actually prioritize humor, 60%, and kindness, 53%. This mismatch highlights a gender disconnect, but also suggests room for compromise, particularly among socially and economically established adults. As people age and gain social capital, they often become more flexible. Women over 40 are more open to partners who may earn less or be shorter, provided there's shared energy, aligned interests, and minimal baggage, such as unresolved conflicts with ex-partners or complex family entanglements. Men, in turn, are increasingly receptive to relationships with mature women, especially when it allows for high-quality time together, without the pressures of shared domestic life. Authenticity plays a growing role here. According to Bumble, 41% of singles value what might be called digital transparency, no heavy filters, no disconnect between an app profile and real life. Globally, 72% of users report seeking long-term relationships, signaling a broader, future-proofing mindset, discussing expectations early to avoid disappointment later. Psychological expectations are evolving as well. Many women are shifting away from seeking financial security or a problem solver, and instead prioritize emotional maturity. 64% say they want a partner who understands his own emotions, ideally with therapy experience. Men, on the other hand, are less focused on finding someone nice and more concerned with avoiding control. They value partners who respect autonomy and don't try to micromanage their lives. Hinge reports that 84% of Gen Z, whose attitudes increasingly shape older generations, want deep emotional connection but feel hesitant to initiate vulnerable conversations, a rate 36% higher than among millennials. The growing normalization of therapy-style dialogue, open discussions about feelings and frustrations, helps bridge that gap, particularly for those seeking real compatibility rather than untapped potential. The contrast between dating before and after 40 is especially striking. Under 40, people tend to focus on potential, shared values, ethical and political alignment, long-term prospects around family and assets. Romanticism still plays a strong role. 55% of American women describe themselves as romantics, and 37% say the absence of romance negatively affects them. After 40, priorities shift toward autonomy. Cohabitation becomes less essential, while shared interests, comparable energy levels, and financial independence take center stage. Women are less interested in taking on domestic caretaking roles, men are less inclined to serve as financial providers for fully grown partners. This dynamic reflects the rise of gray dating, a 23% increase among users aged 45, 65 plus on platforms, where 85% report seeking an active intimate life, without necessarily wanting shared household obligations. In this context, love after 40 may have a better chance of becoming something steadier and more intentional than traditional romantic myths suggest. Without the daily friction of domestic pressure, and with a stronger emphasis on emotional honesty, couples can build relationships rooted in mutual respect and genuine enjoyment rather than reluctant compromise. That creates the potential for healthier, longer-lasting partnerships, where love is not routine, but a conscious choice renewed over time. Still, success depends on closing the communication gap. As highlighted in the Hinge report, avoiding difficult conversations can undermine even the most promising setup. If expectations go unspoken, the ideal arrangement remains theoretical. In that sense, 2026 is likely to bring just as many stories of second chances and emotional reinvention, as it does of disappointment when hopes go unmet.